Hello, I'm going to show in this video how to create maps for QuickQnect and what information you can include. Before we create the drawings, first we need to take a look at the beam information. If we go to the user-defined attribute of the beam, and under the end conditions, we will find the connection code, the capacity, and also the loads that are associated with the beam. So it depends on what information you need to create or include. You need to refer to that UDA inside the drawing. I'm going now to create a drawing and show you how you can show the information inside the drawing itself. So I will create a map for this floor plan. We're gonna do it from scratch. So right click, create general arrangement drawing. I'll just load the standard settings of Tekla. In the drawing, I want to show the part as simple with no center lines. Okay. The bolts not visible, and maybe the part mark as well. We're gonna create custom part marks, so we can load no part marks. Apply OK. And filter, we need only the primary parts. So of course you can save this as give it a name like Connect Map or something, but those are the main settings that we are going to use, and then we can create this drawing. So this is the drawing. I'll just have the extension above to show the other parts segment. So the drawing here is just symbols with no information, and we need now to include the part marks. So let's say that you want to include at each beam end, I want to include the shear reactions, the axial reactions, the capacity, the connection code, and so on. So how to do this? I use an application called Beam Marks. This comes by default when you install Tekla, and it's available from version 18 upwards. And if you want to download for lower versions, you can download from the warehouse. It's called Beam Marks. So how does Beam Marks work? If we double click the Beam Marks, currently it has parts filter, mark setting, and mark position, 3 things. So the filter is a basic filter inside Tekla. So if you press Ctrl G, you have this filter. So you can create a beam filter. For me, I'm gonna use the Tekla standard steel beam filter. And then the mark settings. So you need to define what information you need to include. So if we go to the associative node, double click, and let's say I want to define shear 1 information. So I go to UDA, type shear 1, okay, and I don't want it to be in a table. You can define the font, the height, or whatever. So I'm gonna call it shear 1. Save as. Or maybe I want to have the shear capacity. So I don't remember the exact capacity name, so I'm gonna inquire the parts. It is called connection capacity end 1. That's the name of the UDA. So I'm gonna go here, connection capacity end 1, modify. So maybe I'll call it same connection capacity end 1, save as. I'm gonna do like connection capacity end 2, modify end 2, save as end 2. So I have saved 2 settings for capacity at the first end, capacity at the second end, and so on. So here I need to close and open the tool again to refresh the settings. I'm gonna add 2 rows, or first row will be for steel beams, show connection capacity end1, and here you can define the position. So I'm gonna click on add new position settings. So I'll have the end1 at top left with offset 2 and 2, and save it as top left 2 or top left only. Save. I'm gonna save a new position called top right. With 2 offset as well, top right. So here I'm gonna change this to top left, the connection capacity end1, and add another row for steel beam, connection capacity end2 at top right. And I'm gonna select this beam, for example, and click on create marks. So as you see, it created the capacities 28 connection capacity end1 and to the top left, and connection capacity end2 to the top right. So let's say I want to add the beam profile in the middle, or I want to add the connection code at the top, bottom right and bottom left. So let's try the connection code. I'll just check the exact name of the connection code from the inquiry. It's called connection code end1, the exact UDA name. So I'm gonna go to the associated node under part. I'll just load the one I said. So I'm gonna change this to connection code end1, modify, save as connection code end1, and then change the UDA connection code end2, save as connection code end2, save as. Then I'm going to go to the position settings, create a position at top left, bottom left. I'm gonna save this as bottom left, and create a new position at the bottom right and save it as bottom right. Then add 2 rows, the first one for steel beams also. I want the connection code. Oh, we need to close and open to refresh. I didn't save it, so I'm gonna do it again. Steel beam again, steel beam. So the first one will be the connection capacity at end 1. This is top left. Connection capacity end2, top right. Sorry, top right. Connection code end 1, bottom left. Connection code, sorry, end 1. Connection code end2, bottom right. So I'm gonna save this as map, for example. And then let's select this. I'm gonna delete the marks and select this beam and create beam mark. So we see it created the mark and the codes. Notice that the code is size, maybe we need to reduce a little bit. So what we can do here is that we go to the connection code end 1 load. Perhaps we can change this to Arial narrow. No, that font is available, no. Okay, we're gonna choose same Arial. Oh, narrow font style. Okay, and we change the little bit of the size. And save as. I'll just copy this and try connection code into. So let's try now after we reduce the size. Yeah, it looks better now. Maybe I didn't save into well. Let me go and change it again. Connection capacity code into. Okay, this needs to be Arial narrow. This needs to be 12. Save as. Let's try again now. Yeah, it looks better. So we have the connection code at the start, the capacity at the start, the code at the other end, the capacity at the end. We can add the beam profile at the bottom here. We can add more information, like below here we can add the axial load or other loads the same way. So this is the concept, and once you're happy with it, you can save as your standard, select, let's say, all the beams you want, create beam mark, and it will create for all, like this. Very quickly and easy to create all the maps. So very handy tool, but it's all depends on the customization you do and what information you want to include. These vary from one project to another because of the scale of the drawing, also the font that you want to use, what information do you want to include. So this training will allow you to understand how to customize it the way you want, and you do it on your own. So hope this makes sense, and thanks for watching. Now we are going to take a look at button 3. To open button 3, we go to Connect, Inspect, Connections, and this interface here we're going to click on Inspect Connect, like this. So this will scan all the Connect connections inside the model and will list them over here. If we select any of the part, it will highlight those members inside the model. If we select any of those rows, it will highlight the corresponding parts. And we can apply filters. So if you want only beam to beam, apply filter, so it lists out only beam to beam. So what you can use this for is that you can create a sync session based on the current model status, and this is very helpful for reports because while you are working on a model, there might be revisions. You may use button 1 and 2 many times, and you export many sessions, you import many sessions, some connections you may have deleted. So if you go to Connect and you want to create reports based on sessions, you don't know what sessions to include, what sessions not to include, so it's gonna be a little bit confusing. To make it easy, what you can do is that you click on sync and enter the sync name, like full, for example, model sync, and input the date so you know that this is a sync based on the model of the current date, and click on create baseline. Create baseline will create a session for the model for all the connections in the model. Another thing is that you can select few members like this, for example, and you click on sync. You notice that the selected members are in green. So let's say you want to sync for a specific area or a first floor because you want the reports for the first floor only. So you go here and give it a name like first floor sync, and enter today's name, for example, today's date, for example, and you click on sync selected. Okay. This will sync only the selected parts, either your first floor or a portion of the model. And then if you go back to the reports here, you go to report by model sync, you choose your model and first floor sync date, all, and you click on create submittal package. This will create a report for the current model sync that you used, like the first floor or whatever selections you used, and then you can export to Excel or PDF. When you export, this will be expanded, like it will show everything, the exported report. So this is a submitter report you can create for the full model. If you click on sync baseline, create a baseline, or if you click on selected based on the selected parts, and then you can create the reports that you want. The types of reports you can create are the submittal package, and also there are other types like dot comparison reports, job no connection summary, and other types of reports like job preferences and so on. But the most used one is the submittal package. This one you include it with your model for the UR to check your calculations and so on. So that's about how to use button 3 and how to create reports.